Hello. We all have our life situations that are unbearable. Some of them far more unbearable than others. Sensitivity, high sensitivity in one individual in a not so stressful situation may produce more stress than a extremely stressful situation, or I guess a high stress situation, something that would be considered either more violent or chaotic or just totally, I don't know. My point is that it's like, it's all relative in terms of what's crazy and what's not crazy, or what's um, too much for someone. And like just going through public high school might be too much for some people, but um, there's other people who have different dispositions and different things that they're capable of dealing with. So anyways, when it gets to be too much, and whether you're in a war zone or you're just trying to drive to work, or whether maybe you're just trying to go to the counter at the supermarket, or whatever it is that you're having a hard time with, but or dealing with being alone, or dealing with like all the other things that happen in our lives. But I don't think I'm really qualified to talk about anybody's situation, not even really my own, because I don't think I understand it, and I'm probably too big of a coward to even look at it truly, because we're all too afraid to look at the truth. Well, except for maybe, I don't know. Anyways, let's breathe. 35 rapid exhales through the nose, followed by holding on the exhale. Hold all the air out. Don't close the top of your throat. After you can't hold it out any longer, breathe in as deep as you can, and then hold it at the top of your breath. And then take 3 normal breaths, and we'll repeat. Oops. I think through physical and mental training, different visualizations, and different types of conditioning, we can really open up new dimensions of our bodies and new dimensions of what we're capable of experiencing or what we're capable of enduring. And through endurance of things that normal people can't endure, then it unlocks things that are farther beyond what the typical thresholds are for what human experience entails. So it's not just the conditioning, but it's more like the conditioning allows you to get to a point at which then something else opens that we haven't seen. I think one of the problems, though, this is often one of the big criticisms of drugs, is that they give you the power, but they don't teach you how to control it. So it's like, I think that's a pretty common theme in world literature as well, or any mythologies really, is that if you gain great power comes great responsibility. And so it's like if you take a shortcut to get there and you open things up too fast, too far, and then you can't control it, It's like that the Sorcerer's Apprentice, right? That Disney cartoon, and Mickey's trying to he animates the brooms so that they carry the water for him, but then it just gets too out of control and he can't turn it off, and so I think that's kind of what can happen too for some people is they can mentally psychically start to open the gate, but if they don't have both the physical stamina or I guess endurance, I don't know what it has to be, some sort of resilience to be able to deal with the just crushing nature of the truths that you discover when things are open. I mean, it's not all sunshine, or maybe it is, but the sunshine burns too. I don't know how you want to think about it, but it's like so I guess just that's one of my concerns is I go to Starbucks in the morning often after this, and I sit and I work and I read and I write and I try to really figure out what are the best ways for me to express the essentials of the philosophies that I've come to see as really powerful for destroying other philosophies. And as I'm doing that, I come across these things, and I have these thoughts, and sometimes I'm just overtaken by the intensity of everything, and it racks my body. Like I shake or I cry or like, you know, and I'm sure that's disquieting or uncomfortable for the other people in the restaurant, to have somebody having a strong emotional reaction to something. And quite honestly, sometimes I'm in control and sometimes I'm a little bit beyond. Like if I'm crying and I don't want to be, like I think that's not really if I'm crying uncontrollably at 7:30 in the morning on that bench reading those books, it's like that's probably a good thing though. I mean, why not? I mean, really though, it's like everything. There's reasons for everything, but we don't see the reasons. So all we see, instead, because we can't see the reasons behind things, we believe that we have free will. At least for other things, we think we can see the reasons, but for ourselves, we don't think we can see the reasons because, well, that's just how we are. Is we're blind to who we are, and so because we can't see why we do the things we do, or exactly where we came from, or where our motives are structured in, because of the way we are, probably for survival reasons. Because if you could see it, you probably wouldn't keep living. But if you could, you can't see all that stuff. So instead, because you're blind to that, you instead get the notion of free will. And if you have a feeling of free will, then the thing that you end up wanting to do is have, well, you believe you can affect things. So then you end up with a goal-centered or aim-centered, like a purposeful, way of viewing things. And then you extend that, this notion of, autonomous action of the individual. You believe that this person is somehow acting out of free will, and then through this image of a deity or God that you've created, that humans have created in reflection of themselves, they imagine that there's this man or this human-like form somewhere, or at least something that has a human essence to some degree in terms of characteristics, and that this deity also has this same free will. But again, the only reason that you would believe that God had a free will in which he would choose to carry out things, human dramas, in a certain pattern and not to others according to certain moral standards that he's judging us by, those thoughts of our free will and his free will and his ability to judge and then act on that are all based on this false assumption that comes from the fact that we can't see why things fit together the way they do. But, from the vision that science has been providing us for fairly, a growing number of hundreds of years, we are getting closer and closer to the idea that maybe we can at least accept a model of reality in which free will does not exist and everything is, caused by infinite cascades of, parts within parts within parts within parts within parts within parts within parts. And I haven't even gotten into, subjectivity and objectivity and stuff. I'm reading this book, Bergsonianism, and right now I'm typing up my notes. I'm at page 80, I think, 70 something or 80, and it's talking about the influence of the concept of multiplicity, and they use what's his name, Riemann's, I don't know, the German steps to Bergson's notion of subjectivity and multiplicity. because they both got it from Riemann to a certain degree. So you notice that so the book saying that Berzon came out and was what was interpreted as a critique of the theory of relativity, which was, not necessarily bringing him to higher standing in the 20th century. What Drews is saying is that no, this is just the addition of the metaphysical half of the explanation of what's going on with dilation and contraction and relative movement and speed and all of that, compared to the Einstein's focused mainly on states of affairs, the corporal relation of things, the material, and that if we see time space as a composite, that one of those, I guess, or Einstein's focused on explaining from a scientific perspective that of physical reality, and that Bersolin would be focused more on this notion of duration, subject, and time, I guess, as that plays out in the relation of subjectivity and everything else. And so I don't think I've quite grasped all of it because I don't know enough about the theory of relativity or Bersolin. But anyways, that's what it seems like it's saying to me right now. So I've been reading that yesterday and typing up my notes, and so I haven't even started to scratch the surface about how subjectivity plays into all of this. But the question that keeps coming up in the book on Hume was, how is the subject constituted in the given? And I think that is just the most beautiful, amazing philosophical question that you can ask. It really is, because it seems so specific, but at the same time, it's completely universal. Goes back to kind of the notion of like that Atman and Brahman of Hinduism, or the perceiver and the perceiving and the perceived, and the unity of that triad. Anyways, let's keep reading because I got onto my interest in philosophy right now. I'm really happy that Mizuta-san's watching. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I love you. Okay. Let's do 6 rapid exhale, or do inhale for 3 seconds, exhale for 6 seconds, hold out for 12 seconds. I know every day we do the same basic 3 things, but I think that those are the basics that if we can master those, which I obviously haven't, then we can move into more advanced things. But as I said, this is a process of self-experimentation. Having a better teacher, having a great teacher who's lots of practice can give you better advice and better examples of the form. But the thing that I can offer you is just more of a stance or an attitude, which is to say, I'm going to try to do something that I've not done before, and I'm going to try to do it regularly and improve and share it with people at the same time, because I think that it's something we can experiment with together. Unfortunately, the camera right now is pointed at me. I found on TED, I looked in YouTube yesterday, and in the recommended list of videos connected to some, I don't know what even was, but I saw that there were, well, I think it was the recommended videos in response to my video. There were a lot of TED Talks that had to do with breathing, and I found there were probably like at least eight TED Talks that exist now that have to do with the benefits of breathing. So I'm going to go through and look and see how other people have presented that to the world, because I've got my kind of idiosyncratic way of trying to teach people to breathe, which involves waking up early, hopefully waking up even earlier, and coming out here in the garage and setting up the green screen and putting up Ethan's art. That's amazing. Can I even shake the hand? Can't get behind it. I need to change the. Let me see if I can do that. No, I can't, because if I put that in front, then it's just going to be white background. So anyways, there's me and them chilling out. Thank you, guys. I hope you enjoy having your third eye open. Here we go. In for 3, out for 6, hold out for 12. Repeat 10 times. Wait, that was backwards. I got off. Okay, one more time. In, out, hold. Okay, let's take 10 breaths in the 1-4-2 ratio. So we'll breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 16 seconds, and blow out for 8 seconds. Breathe in. And we'll use the timer again today because it just makes everything easier. As I'm still practicing, of course. So that's the signal to start holding. So breathe in if you haven't already, and hold. Breathe out. And in. Okay, now instead of doing another 10 this time, I just want to hold my breath as long as I can. I'm going to put my chest down. I am going to clamp at the top of my throat. My goal is to hold my breath until I start to sweat. You don't have to do this at home. You might pass out, you might fall over, it might cause you to have some sort of injury, so please don't do this, but it is a thing that you can start to experiment with in slow amounts, as long as you don't sue me if you're American and you're watching this and you have a tendency towards litigation. Okay. Tomorrow will go longer. All right. Remember to exercise and do yoga and stretch too. You know, it's only breathing is important, but also studying. I don't know if studying is important. Living is important. Depending on who and where you are, sex is important. Um, you know, laughter, fun, probably something that moves your body though too. Physical work of some kind. It doesn't have to be productive labor though. It can be just nonsensical. And then maybe you don't even need the utilitarian thing of trying to have, well, no, optimal biological functioning is definitely a prerequisite for joy. So